And hello YouTube, GSmaniamsmart here. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the Reddit Developer AMA for Guild Wars 2, talk a little bit about the advancement of Legendary Armor and whether there's going to be any new sets coming out, the idea behind the new Draconis Mons map, as well as some very important information about Living World Season 4 and the expansion coming up soon. Hope you enjoy. What's up everybody, GSmaniamsmart here. Today we're on a brand new video for Gaming with GS, and welcome back to another video. Glad to have you. Thank you for stopping by. If you happen to be new to the channel, new to my videos, I want to welcome you as well. And I also encourage you to subscribe to the channel. We have plenty of other Guild Wars 2 content videos on the channel. We do patch summaries, lore summaries, discussions about future patches, speculation, guides for gold making, for dungeons, raid guides, all kinds of cool stuff on this channel that will help you out in game, as well as general gaming content. So if you're interested, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, as well as that post notification bell, so you can stay up to date with all the most recent videos. So before we formally start this video, I do want to say that I did finally include timestamps to these videos. So from now on, if a video goes past a certain length, or if a video is fit for timestamps, obviously if we're all over the place in a video, timestamps are pretty much useless. So if I happen to organize a video in sections, like I do sometimes, or if we do these type of videos, or for longer types of videos, I will try to implement timestamps, have them in the description. So I know a few of you have been asking for that, and I've listened to your feedback, and I've tried to implement this from now on into my videos. Hopefully that doesn't affect watch time. A lot of times I don't like doing timestamps, mainly because there are some people who will skip over half of the video and only watch the other half of the video, and that affects watch time, and that can negatively affect the videos actually ranking on YouTube. So I would appreciate if you do use the timestamps, if you could leave a comment, if you can leave a like, if you could leave a share, anything else to boost the video up to make up for the lost watch time. That would be really appreciated, and it would be really helpful. So Developer AMA happened on Tuesday after the patch got released. I think it happened maybe like 4 or 5 hours after the patch. I felt like it was a bit later this time than usually, but still I feel like we're not getting enough time to experience the patch and come back with actual questions that we have. Fortunately though, I was able to finish the entire story, and I think a lot of people were able to finish the entire story also, so that they didn't bring the AMA out on the same time people were playing the story. We did have some time to at least complete the story, which I was able to do. And in this AMA, I've separated the video into 6 topics. They've also sort of talked about 6 topics in this AMA. General information as well as living world content. Then we have information about Draconis Mons, the new map, and the mastery associated with it. Raids and fractals, legendary weapons and armor, PvP in World vs. World, and then lore, any other extra miscellaneous stuff. So if you're interested in any of those specifically, but I do encourage you to listen to all the sections, because there could be important information that you might miss, that you might end up being interested in. So first we're going to start off with the general / living world content, and give you some information on what the developer said for this AMA and some of the questions that we had thrown at us. Now the first big news that Mike O'Brien did bring to the table for this AMA, that he did confirm that there are only going to be 2 more episodes in Living World Season 3. We will have Episode 5 and then Episode 6, and that will be it. Season 3 will be over. However, he also said this, that they're going to treat the expansion, the next expansion after Living World Season 3, they're going to treat that content as a living story episode release. What does that exactly mean? That means usually we get episodes every 2 to 3 months, correct? Well, similarly, it's gonna be the same for the expansion. Now, he did say that they may need a bit more extra time because it's a huge expansion release and they have to do marketing and, you know, conferences and all this other stuff that's associated with, just like they did with Heart of Thorns, and teasing it, different trailers for it, and live streams and all the blog posts, all this cool stuff. So my guess is probably going to be around 4 to 5 months. However, this is actually really awesome news, because what this means is that we were right about literally everything. I remember all the way back to a video that I made in, I want to say March. I gave out this timeline, this theory that I had, and a lot of the community had similar thoughts. I said we'll get SAB, then around May, we'll get the episode 5, we'll get episode 6 sometime in, I want to say July, mid-July, early July, mid-July. That's when we'll get episode 6. And then, hopefully, in about 4 months, which would be August, September, October, maybe October or November, we would get the next expansion, and that would be a fall release. That would also be after PAX West, I believe, which happens in September. This is already really exciting news. Not only does this confirm our theories that we had, but it also confirms that by the end of this year, there will be an expansion out. Now, unless they ask for a 7-month period, then that would be a really long time. We'll probably get the expansion next year. However, I do think they're aiming for a this year release, sometime around either October or maybe November. So get ready for that. That's coming quicker than we thought, and I am very excited for it, and I'm glad about it as well. He also confirmed that all expansion news will be coming after Living World Season 3, Episode 6, so my guess is we'll probably start seeing expansion news, which includes blogs, which includes live streams, which includes more detailed videos, maybe around, I want to say August, I think. If the Living World comes mid-July, we'll probably get it around the end of July, August. If it comes early July, we might get some news on the expansion mid-July. The other really cool thing about this, though, is that he does state that it's going to be treated as a Living World episode. So what that means then is that, are we going to get Living World Season 4, Episode 1, 2-3 months after the expansion? That would be amazing. That will blow my mind away. We will have continuous content, one after the other. And it looks like this is the case, because Mike does talk about how they now have 2 separate teams that are working on different content. So what this means then is that not only will we get the expansion sometime this year around fall, but then we will also be getting the next season of the Living World, Season 4. My guess is going to be sometime around maybe January, I want to say. Maybe after Winter's Day. That is my guess, that we'll probably get Living World Season 4 sometime after Winter's Day, or around that area. And that would be awesome. I'm so glad that they're doing this, and it actually makes sense because he also does hint and acknowledge the fact that there was a content drought before Heart of Thorns, and there was a content drought after Heart of Thorns, and we're very familiar with this. Before Heart of Thorns and after Heart of Thorns, there wasn't much going on. They delayed Living World Season 3 a really long time. So he did acknowledge that that was something they didn't want to repeat, and that means that they're going to be releasing these Living World seasons in a much quicker fashion. And the other big news that we got from Mike O'Brien is concerning the leaks. Now, I didn't make an entire video like some people did, but I did talk about the leaks in a small section of the last video I created. And for some reason, a lot of you, well, not a lot of you, I don't want to say a lot of you, there are a good number of people in the comments section who appreciated that I didn't talk about the leaks, who understood my point, and who actually like that I didn't talk about it. But there is always that small population that just either completely misses the point, either blows what I say out of proportion, and it isn't until I actually comment back having to clarify that they understand. I also find it kind of confusing that the video that I made the other day has such a huge dislike ratio. The funny thing is that people who talk about the leak, what I found out this morning as I did some research, people who talk about the leak, they have a huge dislike ratio. But people who don't talk about the leak also have a huge dislike ratio. So it's crazy, and it's kind of weird. But all I want to say about this is that my intention was not to be someone who was anti-leak. If you remember earlier in the year, I did make a video that discussed a leak based off of one photo. And I discussed about a few rumors that were going around. Why was I okay with talking about that? Because there was literally only one photo. There was a lot of speculation around it. There were no facts behind it. It was speculation. It was rumors. There was no 100% certainty. Heck, there wasn't even 50% certainty. It was pure speculation and just a way to bring up excitement and to throw some ideas around. This leak that we got earlier this week was on a completely new level. We had 40 some pictures leaked, and from those pictures you could get a pretty good idea of what the next expansion is going to have. So that's the type of content I don't want to cover. And my main point out of that first quarter or fifth of the video that I made, my main point about that was that you should not rely on leaks. That was my main point for the last video that I made at the very beginning, but some of you got it, some of you didn't. And well, that's just how life works. Some people will always understand, some people won't. Anyway, Mike O'Brien does talk about the leaks. He says that he doesn't want to spoil the expansion for others. He also encourages other people not to spoil the expansion for others. But a really interesting thing he does mention, and this is touching on the marketing side of Guild Wars 2, he says that the game grows really well by word of mouth. He also gives us some insight on that Guild Wars 2 can only really market the game so much as advertisements go to a certain extent. After that, word of mouth from the existing players is really what drives home population growth. So he's kind of encouraging everyone to tell their friends and family about the upcoming expansion, tell them how great the game is. So if you want to be part of that group and follow his advice, then I would also recommend you talk about Guild Wars 2 to your friends and family. A lot of my friends, I've talked to them about it, and that's what's gotten them into the game. So I think it does have some success. And the last piece of general news that we have is that the Mac client is still being worked on, but we do have some news that it will soon be able to be tested by the players, and it is going to be a 64-bit client. So if you happen to be running a Mac, then I guess this is good news for you because there will be a Mac client coming soon. So that's basically all the general / living world news that we got and developer comments that we had around that. Let's go ahead and move into the Draconis, Mons, and Mastery developer comments and information that we got. Now, one of the cool things we did get from developers is that this map actually came out larger than they anticipated it to be. This is probably one of the biggest maps we've gotten since Heart of Thorns. It's really big, and it's definitely the largest map we've gotten by far out of all the Living World episodes that have been released. According to developers, it took them around 200 hours of testing for this map, and they initially wanted the map to be rather small. They first started thinking about making it out of 4 islands only, like a north, south, east, west type of thing, where they would have 4 islands that will be connecting to each other. That was the initial plan, but as they continued to build it, they thought about this new mastery that they want to have, which would be the grappling mastery. And when that got implemented, they thought, why not take advantage of the new mastery and add a lot of verticality to this map? And they just started building it up from the bottom and started going higher and higher, and it just became a really big map that they didn't even expect to be this big. So I have played the map a bit more, and you're probably seeing footage in the background of me playing the map, playing around the mastery as well. And I gotta say, with the mastery, this map is really fun. I mean, there's a lot of ways you can get up with your grappling hook, with gliding, with a combination of both. It's really fun. And you know, getting to know from developers how they initially wanted this map to be, I'm kind of glad that they ended up making it this big as it is, because it really does encourage you to go for this mastery, and it really does bring more enjoyment to this mastery, especially knowing that with the next comment here from the developers, they did state that it's very unlikely that they're going to be adding this grappling mastery to the open world interior or any other maps. Now, this is kind of sad news, and this is actually why I'm so glad that the mastery was so well implemented in the new map that we got, Draconis Mons, because at least it's fun in that map. But what they're basically telling us is that they would like to have the mastery in different maps and an open Quarteria, and all of us would like it too. I mean, I thought it would have been an amazing idea to have a gliding and then also this grappling mastery be in Quarteria maps and basically everywhere. That would be a really awesome experience. But it's very unlikely, they're saying. It's not an impossibility, but it is very unlikely. And the main reason why is because map breaking problems. Basically, what they could do is add a bunch of different Oakheart essence nodes across different maps, and that's very easy to do. All you gotta do is place more nodes in different areas of the maps. You can interact with the node, and then you can use it to grapple anywhere you like. So adding nodes is not the problem. However, what is the problem is that when you have that node, when people use that node and they have the grappling ability, say in a place like Radasum, where you could then even possibly grapple your way all the way up to the top of the city structure, or say you happen to be in Divinity's Reach, and you could grapple your way up all the way up to some of the buildings, or say you happen to be in some of the snow area maps, you could grapple your way all the way up to a mountain. And a lot of times that is just there for aesthetics, and you could break out of the map, you could cause some problems. It's just something that will take a lot of testing, it will take a lot of QA time to make sure that every little area is covered so people don't break out the map or break the game. So with all that in mind, it does seem like it's going to be a lot of work to implement this into other maps. Like I said, it's unlikely that we'll get to see this mastery be in other maps. And to be honest with you, this is kind of sad news, and it does kind of suck, because this is such a great mastery, and I think this is one of the best masteries they've had ever since, I want to say, I mean, we've had good masteries, don't get me wrong. There have been some really useful masteries, especially for the one we got in Lake Doric. That mastery has now been used everywhere across the game in PvE, and it's been useful in other areas other than just Lake Doric, so that was a really good mastery. And Bloodstone Fen had a really good mastery as well, where you're able to deal with the Bloodstone magic that's been implemented in a lot of different current events. And this is what I think of masteries. Mastery should be something that has story, that has lore behind it, that has a reason behind it, and then it should be able to be used in different areas of the world. Masteries were made so your character develops and advances. And if you're not able to use those development and advancements of your character in different areas of the world, then it's not really a development or an advancement for your character. It's basically just like adding a vendor into the map and buying something so you could do something very specific in the map. And that's kind of what this mastery feels like now. If they're not going to be adding this to any other maps, then it ends up being a very lackluster mastery, because it sort of has a lot of potential, but if it's going to be too difficult to implement anywhere else, then it's really only going to stay in this map, and it's just going to kind of suck. It's going to be limited to one map, and that mastery won't really have much use anywhere else. Now, I am hoping for the next episode, and maybe for some of the future releases in the next expansion, we're able to use this in certain places, and that would be really cool. But I really would hate to have to see this mastery be forgotten about. And it's one of those masteries that a lot of people like, and a lot of people enjoy using, just like lighting, and to have it be forgotten, that would be just kind of a shame. And the last developer comment that I thought was interesting that we got regarding the maps is that the reason why this map is so huge vertically, I know some people didn't like that it was so huge vertically. They expected it to be larger horizontally. But the reason why they added so much verticality in this map is because the mastery takes advantage of that. If there's going to be a mastery that deals with a lot of verticality, like the grappling mastery, like the gliding mastery, they're going to take advantage of that and make very vertical maps. If you take a look at something like Bloodstone Fen, we did have some of the gliding skills in there, and that's why that map was so heavy in verticality, because they had a mechanic in there that took advantage of it. In comparison, if you look at something like Lake Doric, if you look at something like Bitterfrost Frontier, there are no mechanics and there is no mastery in that takes advantage of verticality, so there's no point to build a map that's very vertical. Instead, they made it pretty flat and they expanded it horizontally, and that makes a lot of sense, and I'm fine with that. Next up, we have some news and comments about raids and fractals, and not a lot of comments actually from developers. There's really only 3 that I thought are worth mentioning. For one, there is no plans to adjust any of the balance in raids, so it looks like all the raids right now are in a pretty good place, and they're trying to keep it that way. They don't look at changing anything or balancing anything in raids, and I've tried at least every raid once, and I don't see any problems. I think the raid bosses are great. I think they're balanced enough, and I think they're good to go. One person also asked if there was ever going to be a endless version of the Tier of Alba, and developers did say that this was only meant to be a temporary buff if you wanted to do higher fractals, but you didn't have the agony resistance, so there would never be an endless version of that, and I kind of agree that's how it should be. That's the reason why we actually have the little nodes in the fractals that give you plus 10 agony. We already have that, so having a Tier of Alba is just to double up on even more agony, and I don't think that's really necessary. Unless you're someone that's like lacking a lot of agony, then yes, it's useful for you and it should be temporary. And the last bit is that they are continuously looking at balancing fractals, and it's basically work in progress. They'll be releasing it whenever it's ready. And I am hoping that they continue with the reworks. The reworks that they have done for the current fractals are really well done, and I really enjoy it. So it looks like they're continuously balancing it and continuously working on reworks. No news though on any new fractals, so we'll have to see what happens in episode 6 Living World. Maybe we'll get something. Next up, I want to talk about legendary armor and legendary weapons, and there's quite a bit in the AMA about this. I'm not really surprised because one of the big releases that was in this patch was legendary armor. But one of the more important notes to talk about is that we did get a legendary torch this patch. One thing a lot of people were worried about is that now that the expansion is coming out relatively soon, sometime this year, there are still quite a few legendaries that have not been produced yet. And this is content that was part of Heart of Thorns. So many are thinking, well, am I going to have to pay for the next expansion to get the remaining legendaries? And the answer to that is no. We did get confirmation that these legendary weapons will be continuously produced alongside the expansion and alongside future Living World episodes, and if you paid for Heart of Thorns, you'll get access to those legendaries regardless if you purchase or don't purchase the next expansion. And I think that's fine. I do think it's kind of weird that they're releasing new expansion stuff and they're still releasing old expansion stuff. So it definitely was something that they promised and couldn't fully deliver quick enough. But at the end of the day, they are delivering their promise in the end, so I guess that's fine. And I'm okay with it. I'm glad they're fulfilling it and staying hard at work with it. With this in mind also, then it seems like Expansion 2 will not have any legendary weapons, because if they do advertise more legendary weapons, that's going to be really laughable because they weren't even able to keep up with the initial promise of releasing legendary weapons for Heart of Thorns. I mean, it's been like almost 2 years now. We still haven't gotten all legendary weapons, so I really hope they don't even dare to try and say, oh, new legendaries, Expansion 2. That would be really funny, and that would be a really poor decision. We also got confirmation that even though legendary armor has rune swapping, they will not be adding this feature to legendary weapons. Now, this is something that I thought they were going to add. Many people were anticipating it, and I thought it would have been a really great idea. However, after some more thought on my own, and after seeing this developer comment, I do kind of agree. Basically, what they're saying is that because of how this would affect the market, because of how it would impact the trading post, sigils are a pretty big market. People buy sigils all the time. There are some sigils that are very expensive, like the sigil of force. The sigil of accuracy still has a fairly good price, and the sigil of concentration is pretty expensive as well. There are sigils out there that are pretty expensive, and people want sigils. So if they allow people to just swap sigils, this can really impact the market. And what they're calling it is that after an economic impact analysis, they decided that they want to wait on it and see how things can turn out, and they need to do more testing to see if this could be something that could be plausible in the future, and hopefully it doesn't have a negative effect on the market. But even thinking about it even more now, I do think it would have a negative effect in the market, and the sigil market will just crash because a lot of people who do have legendaries won't need to buy sigils anymore. And if you think about it, legendary weapons are a bit more common than legendary armor. There are less people that raid. There are more people that do PvE content, so legendary weapons is something that is a lot more doable in this day and age than it was before. Legendary armor is going to be something that still only a small population of the game will do because it does require a lot of time and dedication to raiding. So it makes sense that they allow rune swapping because the market won't be as heavily affected as it would be by legendary weapons. I also do think that sigils should still be worth something always, and there are certain times in patches where they introduce new sigils or where they give sigils as rewards, and if we did get sigil swapping for legendary weapons, then a lot of those rewards that we would get, such as new sigils, such as the more powerful sigils, or if you happen to salvage something and you get a really expensive sigil, that's a really nice reward. And if they put sigil swapping into that, it kind of diminishes some of the sigil rewards that we get and the value of sigils. So I do think they should still be worth something. So that's another reason why I kind of agree that sigil swapping was a great idea thinking about it, but if you actually think about it deeper and you look at the effects on paper, it ends up not being that great of an idea after all. They also stated that there will be no changes to the current legendary armor except for the fix that they're working on for the charred tail, clipping through the medium armor, and the fix that they're working on with some of the dying issues. So I'm not surprised by that. It took them forever to make the legendary armor, so expecting them to change things about them is pretty much out of the question already. But this also brings me into the last developer comment that we got, which I think is really important, and this is probably one of the bigger comments out of this entire video, which is going to disappoint some people. I sort of got disappointed by it because even though I like the legendary armor, the medium coat is okay. It's not my favorite. I really like the heavy set. Kind of like the light set, I wish it would have looked a bit different. It kind of looks a bit too spiky for me, but I do still like it. It is kind of disappointing to know that there are no future plans for any new sets of legendary armor. And this really sucks. Not only does it suck because we won't have any other choices for legendary armor, but it sucks double for the people that play PvP and World vs. World. Those communities will not have a way to get legendary armor unless they want to dedicate their time to PvE content and raiding content. And that kind of sucks because I know there are a lot of people that just play PvP and just play World vs. World, and they don't have an option to get legendary armor, and that's kind of disappointing. And the fact that we won't even have any other choices, if you don't like this legendary armor, well then you're either going to have to deal with it, or you may as well forget about legendary armor then, because currently they have no plans of making any other ones. Those are pretty much all the important comments we got about legendary armor and legendary weapons. Now let's head into PvP and World vs. World. Once again, not a lot of content in this little section either. Basically what they did say is that their focus on World vs. World right now is rewards and Ascended gear. They want to give better rewards in World vs. World. They want to give Ascended gear in World vs. World. And that's basically all they said. They didn't really give much information on any future changes for World vs. World. They didn't really give any information on what could possibly be coming in the expansion, what their progress is on the overhaul for World vs. World. And these changes regarding rewards and Ascended gear will probably be coming into the game sometime later this year. So while this is good news, we will be getting better rewards and Ascended gear in World vs. World. It is also kind of disappointing news because there's not much discussion about World vs. World, and it seems like this is a trending thing because in the past AMAs, World vs. World has never really been a huge topic of discussion. It seems like the developers in that team really don't respond much to people, and I'm not really sure what the reason behind that is. As for PvP, not much information either. There wasn't really any huge news about any new maps, no comments about new maps or any balance changes or the next season or the meta or the matchmaking. Nothing really about that. The only thing that I thought was important that's worth mentioning is that they are drawing inspiration from the automated tournaments from Guild Wars 1. So maybe we'll get that coming into the future for PvP. No idea when. They gave no other information. All they said is they're drawing inspiration from the automated tournaments. So we'll probably see that in the game at some point in time if they ended up drawing enough inspiration and if they found a way to implement that into the game. And the last section I want to talk about is lore / extras / miscellaneous things. And firstly, an interesting comment from one of the developers was that the Draconis Mons map actually used to be underground until Primordius burrowed underneath it, and the sea that you're actually seeing, the water that you see at the bottom of the map, it's actually on the same level as the ocean. Now this is really awesome because if you think about it, we are inside an actual volcano. If you haven't noticed it yet, the Draconis Mons map, we are inside a volcano. If you look up, there's no sky, there's no clouds, there's nothing. There's just darkness. So we are literally inside a volcano. It really gives you a different perspective of how the map was made and how the map looks. So a really interesting little lore piece there. They also stated that the Draconis Mons map was inspired by the largest volcano on Mars, which is Olympus Mons. So it kind of makes sense why they named it that way. If you're unaware, Draconis Mons is Latin. So pretty cool that they're actually named it after a huge volcano on Mars. We are inside a volcano, so it does make sense. Now, I'm not going to go into any spoilers with this next comment. However, if you finish the story, you know who Lazarus is. Let's just call that person / him / her / it. Let's just call it X. So Lazarus is X. What they basically said is that X still has a story arc coming up, and that story arc is not anywhere near to being over. And I think that's really cool because not only do we now have several different story branches dealing with the Elder Dragons, dealing with Aurene that we still have, how she's gonna react to us. We still have several other storylines, and including now we have a continuous story arc that's not even over yet about X, and I think that's really awesome. It really gives the developers an opportunity to take future Living World episodes and even the expansion in a lot of different directions and not just focus on one thing. And I think that's really cool and actually really healthy for a game, so I'm glad to see that X's storyline is not over yet. And lastly, let's talk about cats, because Cats are great. Everyone loves cats in Guild Wars 2 for their home instance. We did get some word that they are looking at creating some advanced interactions with the cats in your home instance. Now, what this could be, I have no idea. Maybe feeding a cat, maybe playing with your cat. Who knows, making a little cat house for them, that'd be really cool. But then again, that would sort of go into the direction of decorating your home instance, and heck, maybe they'll go into the direction of then giving you the full ability to decorate your home instance even more. Maybe giving us player housing. That's really digging far too deep. But they did say they're looking at that, so maybe in the future we will see some extra interaction. And for those of you who love cats and love collecting them, I guess that's good news for you. They also said that adding dogs to the game instead of cats has been a pretty hot topic at ArenaNet. So will we see dogs in the future? Will they be bringing dog collecting into the game? If they do, my girlfriend's going to want to collect all of them because she's crazy for dogs. And the last comment that I got from developers is that, and this is actually something that was curious to me as well, we have a lot of these options to collect cats and add them to your home instance, but there's no achievement for it. I think if there was an achievement for it, I would be more inclined to actually collect all these cats, but knowing that there's no achievement, it kind of always slips my mind and it doesn't really give me, any huge inspiration to go out looking for them. So, but they did address this. They did say that they're not adding achievements for cat collecting because it would require all the achievement hunters to then get all the cats, and not all achievement hunters want to go out looking for cats. So that's why they're skeptical in adding achievements for cat collecting, because they know that a lot of people really don't care about it, and it's just a neat little extra. So maybe that's how it'll stay for the rest of the game anyway, and I think that's fine. But that pretty much sums up all the comments that we got in Developer AMA. Those are all the little bits and pieces that I thought were important, that were interesting, that were entertaining to listen to and talk about and have a little discussion on. If you think I missed anything, if you want to see the full thread of over 1,000 comments that I went through, then you can definitely check the link in the description. I'll leave the link to that thread, and you can do your own reading if you want to do so. If you want to leave a comment down below, talk about anything that we discussed in this video, give your own opinions on anything, go and leave a comment down below. We really appreciate it. Make sure you like this video as well, and hopefully you found it informative and you enjoyed. If you want to check out my most recent video, go ahead and click the annotation here. If you want to check out a similar video to this one, click the annotation here. If you want to check out my other channels, such as the vlogging or tutorials channel, the annotation's here. And if you want to donate $1 to my Patreon page, you can do so by clicking the annotation here. That's pretty much it, guys. Thank you for watching as always, and this is GSmaniamsmart, and I'll be back sooner than you think. Don't go anywhere.